Hello and welcome, Dangerlings, to another Dangerous Wednesday here in the UK. And, Wednesday probably wherever you are as well. Not sure where I was going with that. But this is me, of course, James Foxy Lockhart, your host, as usual. And today I've got the very special guest, as you've seen from the stream description, of the Dungeon Master, our usual guest. Say hello, Dan.
Hello, everyone. How's it going?
There we go. And of course, we have Ross Harmston here with us.
Hello, everyone.
Ross is being animatronically controlled today because his handler thought that was best, so expect lots of fizzing comments from him. We're talking a bit about hello, Candice. Nice to see you for coming and joining us. Now, we were saying just before the stream began that with Ross's new lighting there, it looks like he is in space being lit by the flaming orb that is the Danger Cub. Is that the case, Ross?
It is. What I need to do now is I need to get it animated so that it's moving fire. That would be sick.
Oh, that would be sick. Is that within your capabilities?
Probably not, but we can always try. Because if you don't try, you don't get.
Wise words there. Wise words.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dan, hey Amy, how's it going?
Hello, Amy.
And Dan, how's it going?
It's going well. I've just come back from getting my winter flu jab, so I have one functioning arm right now. But we can stream with one arm. I think we can manage that.
I think you can definitely stream with one arm. We're not going to continue the conversation of what you can do with one arm because that's best left to Dan's private time. So at the moment, actually looking at both your screens, Dan, you're looking very blue today. So it is very much like fire and ice. That's what we've got going on today.
Very nice.
Lovely.
I've got the lovely. My background today is the lovely background for the intro to our new season of Danger Club Plays The Slithering, which is Paizo was very kind to promote for us and has been doing the rounds in various places with the amazing Steve Penfold art, which I just cannot get enough of.
It's tremendous.
So good, even if it's quite frightening having Shania over my shoulder, bearing down on me with the scythe.
It is. It looks like Caragors are whispering in your ear.
I'm sort of sitting slightly off center because Caragor's face is always hidden behind my head normally when we stream because he's always dead set in the middle. So, but today it's Velda. It's Velda who is.
Velda's been blocked. That's probably for the best. and of course today a very special. A welcome to everyone here. We've got Rodrigo, got Amy, and people like that joining us, and Steve, of course. Hello, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Is hello to our patrons. Our Patreon went live Monday, and thank you so much for the support. We've been blown away. I've been talking about it on my Twitch channel as well, just how touched we've been by the support you guys have shown us. It's been phenomenal. So hello and welcome to all of you, and of course to all of our regular Dangerlings as well. So we've got quite a show.
Hello to the Medici.
Hello to the Medici, indeed. So we've got quite a busy show for you. We've got lots of things to talk about. And I think moving on to our first segment, today performed by Ross, we'll do The Sting. Not the piano tune of The Sting. The Sting for the news.
DCP News.
So there we go, DCP News. That was very good. I like the swishy.
Right now. We can sell that.
That's great. Yeah. That's really good. So what have we got in the news segment today?
So today we've got a little bit of Paizo stuff. So it is sort of around near the beginning of the month. So we're getting the list of stuff that's going to be coming out. The big release this month for hardcovers is the Lost Omens Pathfinder Society Guide, which I know is a book that will appeal to the two of you and the rest of the club. I know what big fans you all are of the Pathfinder Society as an organization.
Oh, yeah.
How much you love spending time with them. But very relevant to our current story. Obviously, we don't do spoilers on Dangerous Wednesdays, but the Pathfinder Society have become involved in the main Danger Club podcast. So this will be a book that is telling you a bit about the Pathfinder Society, which will be, it'll give you a lot of stuff if you're a Society player. So if you play Organized Play, it's got a lot of stuff in there. Ouch, that hurts gesturing with my arm like that. I'm going to gesture with the other arm.
One arm down. One arm down today. Come on.
This will not come across in the audio version of this that we're putting out on the Patreon. But yes, ow. So it'd be good if you play a lot of Society, but it'd be great as well if you just want to get some Society stuff into your game. I'm excited. I really like the Pathfinder archetype that was in, I think it was the Lost Omens character guide. It had the archetype for a trainee Pathfinder, and that was quite a fun looking archetype. So I'm interested to see it. We're not going to talk about it too much on this show because we're talking to Paizo, trying to get a review copy so that we can have a proper review of it. We can spend a whole episode talking about it. So if we get that, we'll do an episode on Lost Omens Pathfinder Society. But I think it's a nice, for what is normally quite a quiet month for releases right after convention season, it's nice to get a hardcover coming out as well. The other thing which has come out today, or yesterday I think it was, and quite surprisingly, was that Baldur's Gate 3 has dropped into early access. It has released the brand new game from Larian Studios, who made the Divinity Original Sin and Divinity 2. Amazing turn-based RPGs that the three of us play quite a lot of. They brought out Baldur's Gate 3, the sequel to the game of our childhoods, or our teenage years. I've certainly poured many, many hours into Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. How about you guys? Were you Baldur's Gate players?
Ross?
Yes. Thanks, James.
I forget sometimes. Unfortunately, Dangerings, they can't see me. So sometimes my visual cues go unanswered because they can't see me. So that's on me. I was sort of like...
So yeah, I've played the remaster. I never played... Actually, I had the Baldur's Gate 2 on PC. Never completed it. And then I bought the remastered versions when they had them on the iPad and Android. And again... got into it a little bit and then just died, and I was like, I can't do this, so I gave up. But I've bought the Baldur's Gate 3, so hopefully I might be good at that one. Probably not, to be honest.
So a very Fulton-esque show of support there. So you haven't actually played the games, but you've bought them. So the studio has your money, but not your loyalty. Of my own part, Rogvico says I'm somehow missed Baldur's Gate, as did I the first time.
Wow.
Well, they were quite early, and I think there is a little bit of because the people who played Baldur's Gate when they were kids tend to be like, oh my god, you've got to play this, it's amazing. However, there is definitely a technology gap now. The games have moved on, and not just graphically, but also how things work. It is legendarily punishing and things like that. But I think, unfortunately, I did buy it for Steam, and then it crashed. Crashed. It was a horrific port, and it put me off, and I never got back into it. I literally couldn't even leave the town. It went to some sort of picture of somebody by a campfire, and then it just crashed. It was like, cool. So
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I played a lot of the first Baldur's Gate when it was out. I played that all the way through a couple of times. And it was great. And I played quite a bit of the second one. The second one is the more sort of well-regarded of the two. But I never got into that one quite as much. I was sort of playing Icewind Dale by that point because it let you make your full party, I like that customization, which is always really nice. But I certainly played a lot of the first one, and then I bought the enhanced editions when they came out for the iOS and then for PC as well. And they're fun, but yeah, that game. I mean, in fairness, that game is very old now, but it also hasn't aged as well as other games of its type. Partly, some of it's the graphics and just general gameplay. Also, it's D&D second edition. It's not even third.
Yeah.
It's Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, so it is a very old game, and the rules. Some of those rules are really complicated, so they don't make as much sense. Because you had Neverwinter Nights, which was third edition, but Neverwinter was a bit of a clunky game, and it came out in that weird era where it was kind of 3D graphics were out, but they were kind of new, and now you look back on them and actually it doesn't look as good as something like Baldur's Gate, which is just a 2D but isometric kind of thing. So it's there were lots of things with Neverwinter that weren't amazing, but but Baldur's Gate was a great game, and so Baldur's Gate 3 people have been very excited about it.
Oh, yeah.
I think we are all very big fans of Larian as a studio, aren't we? Of the Divinity games, especially. They are incredible games.
They're very good. Not perfect. So the storytelling on 2 was a little bit off, but then they released the definitive edition, so they've made up for that. And I think there's a lot of very positive expectation about these games. And to be honest, how long has it been now, the gap between Baldur's Gate 2 and Baldur's Gate 3? It's
Oh, my
26
goodness.
years or something. It's ridiculous. So, and they've got quite a lot to live. That's a double-edged sword, I think, because on one hand, yeah, of course, the game's going to be better than Baldur's Gate 2 in a lot of ways. However, 26 years is a long time for people to get real fanatic. So there's going to be a lot of rabid fans out there ready to pounce.
I think it will be successful. It's using 5th edition rules, so it's a rule set that people are familiar with. It hopefully will not rely too much on you having to know story from the first 2 games from a generation, literally a generation ago, not even a gaming generation ago.
I hope not.
If you do, I guess you can just literally YouTube a summary of the story of the both first and second one. That's what I usually do. If I can't be bothered, I was like, I'll just Google it, see what happened.
It's a half-an-hour version or a 5-minute version? 5-minute version. Just give it to me, point blank, like little points. That's
What
it.
happened in the first Witcher? Oh yeah, that's cool. I'll play The Witcher 2 now. Cool, thanks.
Yeah. I played all the Witches. There's always a couple of Easter eggs in there, but generally studios are quite on with not making it too much like that, especially when your source material is ancient. Rob Viggo said that the release date was 3 years before he had heard of D&D.
Wow.
So yeah, we're talking a long time ago. It was a long time ago, early 90s.
I'm not sure if I played. I don't think I played Baldur's Gate before I played D&D, but it was close because I remember my Baldur's Gate character was the same as my first D&D character. So it would have been around the same time that I started playing the game to playing Baldur's Gate. So it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
I didn't play D&D until literally years after I played the second one, because that was the first one I got. And I remember the opening. You are in these little jars, or like you're in like prison or something. In the second one, you are starting.
Spoiler.
Huh?
Spoiler.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
From a game from '94.
yeah. Well, that's any fantasy like story. You start off in a prison, like you start off in a jail cell. Patrick Stewart comes over to you and goes, "Oh, I'm going to release you," and then
Good old Patty.
but yeah, and then like years later, I didn't even know. Even when I played D&D, I didn't know that Baldur's Gate was based on D&D, because obviously I was a noob, so I didn't know any of that stuff, which is cool.
Yeah.
It's one of these things where Baldur's Gate has become really important in a lot of 5th edition's adventures
in the last few years, and it's because you've had sort of a generation of writers who played the Baldur's Gate games as kids, and now that they're kind of older and are writing games for Wizards of the Coast, they're like, oh yeah, let's put Baldur's Gate in it. So now Baldur's Gate is in loads of adventures, even though wasn't really ever that important a place for a lot of places, a lot of things. But it's exciting. It's I think I like the turn-based combat from Larian's game a lot. I haven't tried out the Kingmaker turn-based, which is Alcat's different studio, but it's based on the Divinity stuff.
Yeah.
But certainly the tactical options that you can get with turn-based is really good, and it sounds like a lot of that is still there. There's I've been reading reviews of people who played for a first day or so, and there's things like spreading surfaces on the ground, spreading fire on the ground, setting your weapons on fire with that, pushing people into things, moving, battlefield control. That's all going to be in there.
Yes, I think that's definitely the system that works best, and also more true to the source material, because generally, because we all play, or most of us play role-playing games and stuff like that, you do like the stuff where you're wandering around town and questing people and doing the questy stuff is all very fluid, and it's just real time, but combat is by its nature very, very turn-based, because you've all got 6 seconds and you go around the group and you all say what you're going to do, and I think it's much better than live. I think with the original Baldur's Gate sort of like you could pause it and issue orders, but then you unpaused it, which is
That's how you play Command and Conquer as well. That was like every game at that point, wasn't it? It's just like pause the game, issue all your orders, unpause, wait 3 seconds, pause it again, issue some new orders.
It's amazing the small things that change games radically. I remember playing the first Warcraft, which is a build you base, kill the enemy, and there was no drag and group feature.
Oh, no, yeah.
So you literally, I remember furiously giving myself RSI by clicking every single unit, being like, go attack, 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 and they'd all have the thing they'd say, like, yes, my lord, yes, my lord, yes, my lord, yes, my lord. It's like, just attack all at once. And then I think it was Dune 2 had the first function where you could group 9 units together. It's like, oh my God, the future. Those heady days. Heady days.
It was amazing. So what, in terms of what you get if you want to join the early access for this game, because the official release date isn't for another year, I think.
Yeah.
But you can get in now. It's going to cost you about 50 quid to get on.
50 quid?
I mean, you get the game for it eventually, but
that's the game.
Yeah, you get the whole game, but obviously you get your early access to it as well. But at the moment, you can only play the first chapter, and because it's getting altered all the time, there are bits of it that aren't there. There's a lot of animation bugs. Your saves get wiped constantly, so you keep having to restart.
That's a common thing. Yeah, that's a very common thing.
It's everything you will get from early access. So I have an issue with
Yeah.
I think you and I, James, have the same issues with early access as a concept, because it used to be called the open beta, which was kind of, you did a test basically and you were supposed to give feedback on the game and the game wasn't finished, whereas now it's a way of them shipping the game and getting some cash in the bank early when really it's not done yet. And I have no interest. Both of us have had the Subnautica 2 sitting in our Steam accounts for well over a year now, not being played because we don't want to play it until it's finished.
And no dissing against Subnautica. It's a great game. Just go and play the first one. Amazing game. However, and there are littered sort of many early access games which never get finished. Technically, I think Ark was still early access until a couple of years ago, and that's not finished. It's not finished. Just to digress into the chat just for 1 second, because Steve says the Descent to Avernus is one of the stronger 5e adventures, and that begins in Baldur's Gate. And also, something reminded Warcraft reference. If you kept clicking on the soldier, they get gradually more and more annoyed until the final line was, "Why'd you keep touching me?" Which he put in the chat. So great callback, Steve. Amazing.
I love that.
So funny. Yeah, and you click on the ships, and eventually they're sick. And that's just. What are you going to do when you're waiting for your army to build up? You're just going to click on annoy your units, obviously. So yeah.
Such a good game.
It is a good game.
Great.
So do check it out. If any Dangerlings do buy the early access of Baldur's Gate 3, let us know what your thoughts are. Generally very positive by the looks of it. Internet land says that it's pretty positive and people are looking forward to it.
I think it will be. What are you guys? Are you guys going to play it in early access?
Oh shit, no.
I mean, I've bought it, and I've installed it. It's sitting in my Steam library. I've got to complete Disco Elysium first, because I'm a completionist. I need to do one thing and then another because I can't chop and change. But once I've done that, then I'll go on to probably Baldur's Gate and play that and see what it's like, and I'll let you guys know.
I'm imagining a sort of tavern in your computer where, Baldur's Gate 3 comes bounding in, ready to hot and ready for action. Oh, I'm going to get called up any second. And there's Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 just like really drunk in the corner being like, yeah, mate, you'll be sitting there for days. Get yourself a drink. He'll never get round to it.
Got like beards and everything.
Beards, just we've been waiting for years, mate, years. I'm a classic, Yeah, whatever, Baldur's Gate, shut up. Anyway.
It should be said, if you are thinking of getting this, if you are thinking of getting the early access for this, of course, it's early access. It won't be fully finished. And if you're fine with that, it's fine. But also, if you've not played a Larian game before, do bear in mind that even when they ship, sometimes they're not fit. Neither of the two Divinity games were entirely finished when the main version of them launched, and both of them got special editions within about 6 months.
Yes.
Which, in the case of the second one, completely rewrote the final act of the game, and you couldn't transfer your saves between them, which is why we're all playing through it a second time, so we can see all the new stuff.
I do know through a personal contact who worked on the game why that was, and they basically ran out of time. They were literally writing the story right until the deadline, where they quite literally told the writers to put down your pens because we have to ship this game because you said it would be ready by now and you haven't finished the story. Because they're very, very, you can see it in the game. They love it so much, and I think it's very much a labour of love love, and it's just sort of like sometimes you need to tell people like that to get on with it. Stop
like
making
how-
that water look so beautiful and get on with it. Sorry, Ross.
No, I was just gonna say I like how it's like an exam. They go, "Put your pens down now. Put your pens down," and they're just still trying to sneakily write
It
some more.
was apparently, yeah. They were sort of scribbling on napkins and throwing it. It's just like, no. You've got the story. We've got to finish. We've got to move this on. And yes, Rogvergurk, Disco Elysium is out. It's been out for quite a long time, and it's supposed to be brilliant. Ross is very much
really
enjoying it at the
good.
moment. Yeah, it's really, really good. Very, very different take on the usual RPG thing. It's been on my list for ages as well. Sorry, Dan.
Very nice. I
I
mean,
thought you were
I'm
going to say
still
something.
trying
Man.
to. I'm still trying to finish all the little bits in Red Dead Redemption 2. So I have many more bears to skin before I'm going to move on to anything else.
Oh yes. Yes.
I also cannot afford any games at the moment, so I won't be getting the early access. I'm going to wait until the main one is out and enjoy it as intended. But
Yes.
I'm glad we have at least one of us on the crew who's going to play it early and can give some thoughts on it, because I know it's going to be a game that it's going to be a good game.
It's
Like
gonna be a good
Larian
game.
don't make bad games.
Yes, and there is a reason why we're talking about it here on Dangerous Wednesdays, because it's going to be a big one. People are going to be talking about Baldur's Gate for a long time because it is so beloved. And
What
so
do you? I mean, I'm interested with
Yeah.
with these sort of releases. What do you prefer in a studio? Because obviously the tendency seems to be for studios to announce stuff, want to announce stuff there as early as possible.
Yeah.
Do you prefer the model of like this, where they put it out in early access when it's not finished and let you just play around with bits of it until it's done, versus sort of the other extreme of something like Cyberpunk, where they just keep pushing the release date further and further away, and now they've got sort of all of the staff are working 6 days a week with no pay, or apparently it's pretty rough.
yes.
Trying to put this game out.
I mean, it's very
So what do you
contextual.
think, early access or late?
I mean, I think that it depends on the studio and what kind of game it is. I mean, some games need more testing than others, perhaps. But generally, because people like Rockstar, if they say they're pushing it back by 6 months because they've still got to work on the game, everyone's like, yep, cool. That's fine,
Yeah.
because you generally release games that are really, really tight. There's never any problems on release, and they are great, great games. Red Dead Redemption 2 and all this kind of stuff. They're classics, all the GTAs. I think if a studio takes too many times, we're releasing it early so you can test it. It's like, it can cause so much bad feeling because people play it or it changes or it's just not flipping finished. Do it. I mean, I understand that AAA games, they have massive budgets now, loads of pressure, shareholders invested in a game, which seems mad to me. He used to buy floppy disks with a game on it, but yeah, that's the state of the gaming industry at the moment. What do you think, Ross?
I think that I prefer games that are finished.
I think most people do, don't they?
Yeah, but like as in late finish. Like I'm not a massive fan of early access because I'm like Dan. It's like I know that it's not the final product, so you end up like going, this is all right, but it's meh. But then even now, games when they're officially released, like Cyberpunk 2077 has gone gold, which means that the discs have gone to be printed. Which means that, but they're still not actually finished the game properly. So they're they're going to release it with a patch probably, and that's what most games do now. Like they put them on a disc and then they keep working on them, and they go, oh, we need to patch this as soon as it comes out, and that's what happens. Like a lot of the games do that now. They go, they realize that they buggered up something, and then they have to release a patch for that to fix that thing or. So I prefer, I just prefer them when they're supposed to be released. But obviously, you don't want the game studio. But the thing is, it's a big business now. Like games are massive revenue now for them. They're almost like blockbusters.
Very much so. I think
Think of
that's
the
very
exclusives,
good.
all the exclusives that are on PlayStation, like God of War and all these other ones. They're massive budget. Like you say, AAA titles that will give Sony and Xbox revenue, so they have the chance to just work on their game and have it pretty much ready to go when it's there. It's the smaller studios, I think, that struggle.
Yes, absolutely. And then, of course, leaving aside toxic DLC policies and all that kind of stuff, where it's like, we took something that was supposed to be in the game and cut it out. to pay for later. And you're like, no. They should have that level in it because that's clearly part of the game. I mean, that's a real double-edged sword, and it depends on the game. Because sometimes, yes, DLC genuinely adds stuff to it, and other times you're like, no, that should have been the game.
EA are very bad at that.
I was going to mention names, but EA, Sega can be very bad with that. The Total War games are legendary. Paradox can be quite bad with that, although they have redeemed themselves with Crusader Kings 3, which is actually a very complete title from the get-go, possibly to make up for the bit of a mess that Imperator Rome was. Anyway, let's not get me started on Paradox games and DLC, because that will be a long, dark rabbit hole to my soul. So now moving
4-hour live stream.
4-hour live stream, that's it. And people get enough of that on my live stream. Twitch.tv/Foxy_lockup.
Nice.
Now, yes, I know. So did I, Rob Verkerk. So did I. So we're moving on from Baldur's Gate 3. What other news do we have? Do we have other news?
The only other news is news that I'm sure most people on this stream will be aware of because they are our Medici, they are our patrons, and that is that the Danger Club Patreon is now up and running. This is the first show that we have recorded since it went live. It went live on Monday. It was, I think tremendous is a good word describing it. It was quite shocking how amazing it went. We had a sort of vague goal in mind of like, if we can make enough before all the bills start coming due next year to kind of cover the costs of the podcast for the year, that will, if we can kind of get enough coming in that we know that we're not going to be going into debt anytime soon, that would be fantastic. We hit that target and then some within about an hour of it launching, and it just kept going up from there. So now we're in the sort of the realm of like, okay, now we all need to actually sit down and start talking about all of these ideas that we've been talking about for the last couple of years and start planning on how we actually make them happen. So it's very exciting. We're working out all of the stuff you've got. If you go on the website now, you will see the Hall of Heroes has gone up there. So if you are one of our patrons, then you should see your name up there, unless you joined the Patreon after sort of when I put it up yesterday, in which case your name will go on there next week when I next put some more names on. Everyone who's on the £10 and up tiers with their name and NPC, I will be getting in touch with you all either later today or tomorrow to get some NPC names from you. We have a record day booked in for next week. We're going to be in the studio making some new episodes, and I would really like to have some of your NPC names in the pot there ready to go so we can start hearing some of those names. I am sure I am letting myself in for so much trouble.
Good trouble though, trouble we like.
Yes,
definitely on
great
that.
Fun.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely tremendous. We can't wait to push on forward and do some.
And of course this, and the stream is live. The podcast feed is live. Some of you have been listening to Danger Recall. I hope you're enjoying Danger Recall.
Steve has just finished going through all the at-launch materials, so there we go. Steve has set the bar, because there is quite a bit that was released at launch, and more coming.
That's amazing. Well, like, for example, now, if anyone, sometimes when we've done these live streams, people have had to sort of nip off to go off to work halfway through and have missed the end of it. This live stream will be, the audio version of this will go out on that podcast feed later on tonight. So you will be able to get that in your podcast feed straight away. So you're not going to miss anything if you can't see the whole thing live. But we're still going to be here on Twitch live every Wednesday at 6.
Yes,
this, because this is fun.
It is.
But yes, it's fun. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes.
Wow.
It has been tremendous, and so we don't just keep blathering on about how grateful we are for the Patreon and how excited we are and things like that, because we do talk about that a lot at the moment, unexpectedly. We're going to move on to something that, I think it often causes awkward pauses around the water cooler at work. It's a quite a personal problem that affects quite a few people in the world today, and that's murder. Because we had to deal with something in a private game that occurred on Monday that we thought would be quite an interesting topic to discuss here on Dangerous Wednesdays. So I think for this one, I'm going to pass to Ross to explain what happened, because he was the DM in question on this game. So what happened?
So the PCs are friends or in bed with the Yakuza. They work for the Yakuza.
The best stories always start with that. So yeah.
Yeah. So the PCs are working for the Yakuza. One of the members, who is a Dangerling, is actually like a full-blown Yakuza. And Dan's character, he plays a synth, and he played it as if like he can't lie and he's like super honest. Yes.
Yeah, no, just going to put, because actually David has made a good point. David Corner, we are talking about a private game that has happened on Monday. This is not a Danger Club exclusive and not within the Danger Club at all.
This is our social game.
The culprit may have already come forward on the chat. Apparently Ross made me do it. But anyway, we'll let Ross continue in this cross-examination, and then we shall call forth the first witness.
So, I should really explain it. It's a cyberpunk themed game. It's all about, it's like Blade Runner. It's like everything's dreary, dark. It's a dark dystopian future set in San Francisco. Anyway, the PCs are in bed with the Yakuza, and Dan's character plays a synth, and he plays like a robot, a sort of servant robot. Synths they're not literally robots. They've got synthetic, like, organs and things. They're pretty much human. They're just synthetic humans.
Very Blade Runner in that, aren't they? Effectively humans.
So Dan basically got captured by the police, and the leader of the Yakuza told the PC that has come forward that if Dan's character spoke about anything to do with the Yakuza, that she would know what to do and that she would have to kill him. So I foreshadowed that. And anyway, long story short, they came. Brian's character Dan's character came back to a sort of safe house, and so did the Yakuza and the leader of the Yakuza. So they were all having a sort of conversation, and basically there was a moment where the leader of the Yakuza, her name was Anna Misa, she says, what did you tell them, Brian? And Brian told them that his memory got hacked. And as soon as he said that, the Anna Misa, the Yakuza leader, slid over a gun towards, I'm going to tell you who it is, Candice's character, and said to kill Brian 5. This is his name. And Dan's character. And I slid the gun over and I said, I want you to shoot him to prove your loyalty to the Yakuza. And then I said, or I will kill you. And then she was debating it. She had a conversation with me. And then I said, as that character, as the leader of the Yakuza, I said, I'll give you two options. You either shoot him now or you're out of the Yakuza. And then she shot him in the head. And well, he didn't die straight away because I did the damage for it.
Yes, and we did an awkward sort of damage. Took two shots. So no one really knew where to look. It was all just a bit sort of, Well, but that was the case for the prosecution and I suppose the defence really. And Dan, if you'd like to call forward as the first witness to this incident, what did make Brian 5 spill all the beans? Was this unexpected, or had you been cruising for a shooting for quite a while?
I mean, I had a feeling how it would go. It was a bit of an experiment with the character because in our previous campaign, I'd played an antagonistic character and I'd kind of just got bored with it because it's just like you just end up encounters just take longer because it's like, do you help the group? No. Oh, okay. Well, we have a little argument and then it takes us 5 minutes longer and then we do it anyway. That's the quest, we have to move on. And after a while I got really bored with it and just sort of stopped playing. So this time around I was like, I'm going to do completely the opposite. I'm going to play a character who is completely incapable of disagreeing with the other player characters. All he is capable of doing is helping them. So he literally as he sees.
That's not strictly true. You couldn't lie.
He couldn't
that
lie,
didn't necessarily mean that you always helped.
No, but he's
he's incapable of disobeying any command given to him by anybody else. It was balanced out by the fact that I'm a shitty player and so didn't remember, like I completely forgot not to give out, like I'd been ordered not to give any names to anyone, but that was 2 games ago and I couldn't remember I'd forgotten all about that, so so I just do that.
So,
but yeah, so I was just kind of like, I want a character devoid of conflict in what is, I would argue, essentially an evil campaign. That is what we're playing. Like with
It's
the
an evil
characters that
world.
are in it. It is, and it's kind of like, so I was kind of like, okay, so that is, there's only one way that this character is going to end, and you just sort of play it out
All right.
until it happens.
So there's the case for the defence of Brian 5. Now, because the player in question can't defend themselves here, I will play that part for Candice, and her character is very much, you know, as we said, we've all been dealing with the Yakuza. However, she is actually born and bred Yakuza street rat from the tender young age. Is now sort of in her early 20s. She's always done everything, and very much follows the sort of letter of the law. Now, the reason we brought this up was not to discuss a sort of private game, but it raised an interesting thing that none of us had seen before, which was actually player murder, because technically this was murder. Now, we've established the details. In actual fact, it wasn't just a spur of the moment, I hate your character, Dan, I'm going to kill you. We're not children. This was built up through the plot, through character development, and hats off to certainly everyone involved, certainly you, Ross, for your DMing, because it's not an easy thing to DM, and also Candice for the way she role-played it. And even though, of course, nobody wants to murder someone else's character, but she went through with it because that was what was done. Now, we're going to throw it open to you. We're going to discuss a bit more, but stick on the chat. Have you encountered this before? Have you been in similar situations? You know, have you had to DM something that was really, really awkward, or be part of a game where something happened where it's like, oh, I guess that's going to do, but you went through it because of the role playing, or did you pull your punch? What do you think? But I think first of all, you know, how did you feel DMing that, Ross?
Because that wasn't in my head at all. Like that wasn't the end game of that game that we played. So I went with everything that was happening at that time. I knew that Anamisa was going to be very hard. It was going to be very hard for them to persuade her that he didn't talk. It is a struggle because I've killed 2 of Dan's characters now in both campaigns. But the thing is, now that I know what kind of player Dan is, he's very much like the Scott Bakula of Quantum Leap. He likes to leap into characters, and then instead of like Ziggy going, "You need to do this to make everything right," he just sort of he goes, you know what, I'm bored now, so then he'll just
I don't know this person's backstory, I'm just going to start punching things or throwing things out the window.
So the opening of that of Dan's Quantum Leap would be leaping from life to life because he gets bored. But like, so it was go on. Sorry.
It's essentially, it's less I think my playing characters is less Quantum Leap and more the bit in Groundhog Day when Bill Murray realizes that he keeps going back and just keeps killing himself over and over again. Like I'm one. It's a fascinating thing it's a weird thing that I find as a player, is that I'm one of the only people I know as a player who has no attachment whatsoever to their player characters. Like I've never experienced this thing that other people have gone through where they've lost a player character and it's been devastating and like something that really sits with them. I am like I miss the funerals of my characters because they get killed because I've already got my nose in the book and I'm genning something new because I was probably already bored of playing that character and was ready for something else. So it's a very, and I should say, I think it comes across, but I have no ill will at all towards Candice for what happened. It was hilarious. It was a brilliant moment.
It was.
Yeah, I have a very different approach to playing characters, I think, than a lot of people do. I'm not in it for the long haul, really.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think like, you know, I don't intentionally, like, it is hard because once you've gone there, once I slid that gun over across to Candice's character, I kind of knew where it was going. But I still in the back of my head when I'm DMing, I still need to know that there is an out, and that there was a way that could have gone a different way. Do you know what I mean? I know I steered it towards a certain end result, but there was a way that you could have gone.
Yes. Sorry, just jump in there. I think that's exactly, the job of a good DM is you're trying to provide options rather than just nobody wants to be railroaded along their story. And it's really, I guess the philosophical question is, how far along a course of action do you go before the point of no return? Now, of course, that's going to change depending on the context, but by the sounds of it, Ross, you really did try and keep that point of no return as close to the act as you possibly could until really which the ultimatum was given.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think, have you experienced similar things, Dan, in games where you've sort of, maybe not murder, that's a very extreme case, and already we've had a couple of comments about it, not bad, but just of people's own personal rules on it. But yeah, have you had situations that you were like,
PvP is very rare in my experience. In tabletop, at least. In LARP, it happens all the time. Like people murder each other all the time.
Well, yeah.
But in our games, it's very different. I think I had a character who got turned evil and murdered another player character, but actually that player had stopped coming, basically. I think that character was effectively retired and was kind of just an NPC by that point. So it wasn't quite the same thing. And then the evil turned character then got captured by the others and put in prison. And it kind of, that taught me to be careful with it, because that wasn't really fun for anyone, because it meant one player is just captured and they just sit there and do nothing for the whole session. So I was like, actually, that wasn't, you were kind of doing your own thing that didn't involve anyone else while you were being evil, and then you got captured and now you're not involved in the game. And it was like, okay, well, let's find a way to turn you good and get the story moving again and get things going on. So I haven't had that much experience. I've had experience of it from the other side occasionally. I'd say I have huge respect for how you GM'd it, Ross. I thought it was a really good moment of kind of offering the outs, setting the situation up, and then letting it play out how it played out. I think many GMs will have lost their nerve in that and found a way for the character to have survived it and just moved on. And I've had it happen before in games where I've kind of put my character in a situation where they will definitely die, and it's just like it's the heroic death. Like they run in and they jump on the grenade, or it's that kind of moment there, and the GM has been like, and you get saved at the last moment and it's fine. And it's like, oh, cool. Well, death means nothing in this game then. So there's no, there are no consequences to anything. Whereas that had consequences. That was real.
Yeah.
It makes it a good moment.
And then, I think that's why I did it, I think, is because it's a bit different in the D&D, but like in this one, you're with a gang that you're with the Yakuza, who will literally just kill you, like if you put a foot wrong, and there are consequences, and and sometimes I don't really do the consequence thing in my games, but I thought that was a good moment to just do one. I know that it was obviously at the behest of a player character, but that I knew that, I don't know, like I thought that with the group of players that I had and the experience that they had would have dealt with it in the right way. Do you know what I mean? And I also know that Candice is quite a new player, and it's quite a good thing to give her, to show her what role play could be, Yeah.
And I think the point about, not only maintaining integrity of characters and of the realism of your world, but also maintaining a threat that actually has credibility. I mean, it's I don't know why the example came to my head, but it's sort of the having the Empire in Star Wars, and they're terribly threatening until they try and shoot at you, and then they can't hit anything for toffee. Yeah. Like they're just the worst trained soldiers ever, and their armor is basically useless. And that's fine in that kind of fantasy setting, but I think It's of course much of it is contextual, and in this particular game, it's a grimy, dirty world where the angels have dirty faces, and you need to keep that threat going. I don't know if everyone's just quietly listening. The chat's so quiet, but have you found that in your games? Steve said he's got a pretty blanket rule of no inter-party conflict, which is very wise, I think. Hold over from when you were kids, because of course I remember having a few arguments over D&D as a kid. I think we could probably do it now, but it's kind of a habit. No murder, no stealing, rarely even lie to each other, to be frank. I mean, that is a wonderful, wow.
They see nothing what the Danger Club do.
Yeah, well, exactly. And Amy's just chipped in with high risks make for a better story. Exactly. And it's worth noting as well, because I also have a player invested in this campaign, that this entire situation had caused a great source of role-playing for quite a few games, because you've got an incredibly loose-lipped android being taken by the police, and then our reactions were great. It was just gold dust to be able to take your character and be like, great, so potentially there's someone spilling their guts right now, and literally they will not lie at all. What do you feel like? It was great. It wasn't just an isolated incident. It was a wonderful theme of storytelling, and who knows, we're still going to find out what goes on.
I've got a question for all of you. We all have had characters that have died in separate campaigns.
Yes.
How did we feel as players when it happened? Let's go with Dan first.
Well, I think we know what Dan's going to say.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah,
they're Kleenex.
I no one hates my characters more than me. When my character who survived Ross's 5e game, Ross asked us to write endings for our characters so he could do like an epilogue at the end of how they all went. And I tried to kill my character off in the epilogue. I wanted my character to die in a stupid accident, doing something dumb, and be forgot. And it was like he accidentally blows himself up and nobody remembers him. And that's the end of his story. And Ross just dropped that bit from the epilogue and only gave him the nice ending. I was like, oh no, I hate these guys.
He actually gave up the alcohol and the random things you'd given him.
Yeah.
I felt bad about the very first character that I lost through PvP was when I was 12 years old playing Warhammer Quest, and I had to go home early to have my tea. And the next day at school, I said, "Oh, what happened?" And I said, "Oh, can you control my character for the rest of it?" And the next day at school, I said, "Oh, what happened in the rest of the quest?" And my friend said, "Oh, your character gave me all of his gold and then jumped in a pit. He's dead." And
the 12-year-old way.
That one made me mad. But no, I genuinely, I don't know why. I get very attached to some NPCs. I'm hugely attached to some of the characters from the Danger Club, like Travis and Ica and Gumbo, and I have a real connection to some of them, and even to some of the antagonists. Huge, I really do. Poor Xanathar, but actual player characters, I never, any time a player character dies that I've played, it's always been a kind of never mind, here's a chance to try something new. And because I'm always excited to make new characters, especially I've never lost a character in Pathfinder, but Pathfinder would be killing off my own characters on my own, I would imagine, because I'm like I'm so keen to. Although I don't know, if I lost my Kingmaker character, I think I would feel, if Sir J. Scalabride, the Catfolk Paladin, died, because I've been playing him for nearly 3 years now through Kingmaker, so that's quite a long-running one. So maybe there would be something there, but even then,
good.
So I've got a great Unchained Summoner build.
If you're DMing Dan's campaign for Kingmaker, then make sure that you kill his character off, and then you'll see that he has a heart.
And I think that's it. I mean, it's coming from two different angles. The heartless, dust-filled Dan, and people with actual empathy. And but
what about you, James?
I think very much it's whether or not, if it's a player character, or if it's an NPC, or if it's just a little cute cat. If you have emotional attachment to that character or whatever it is, you're going to feel a bit more. But if you don't, because also, sometimes for, say one-shots is probably the closest example I have to that, where you're playing a character, it's like, yeah, you're quite fun. Oh no, they died. Because, it was only ever going to be a short-term thing. You knew that going into it, as you have 4 games, and even then sometimes you've got a backup character as well, because, he fights with a mop.
Yeah.
We have
They're
had
all-
some. Oh, I was just going to catch up with the chat
Go-
just a little
go
bit.
for
We had a great story
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Rogvergerg, who had a disrupted PC get handed over to chains in chains to a tribe of a centaur, and then was shocked when the rest of the party didn't go out their way to rescue him. Was slightly awkward, apparently. So, yeah. And generally, the Farron. It's all about consent. Absolutely, I think that's definitely the way forward. You know, you've got to, if it's agreed, it's like Steve's got his rules, and if you agree that that is a thing that you can do, or if it's contextual and stuff. I don't think we ever did agree, but I think it's just sort of. I think you mentioned Ross that we're all adult enough to go. Yeah, and I think also there's a context. I keep saying that word this evening, but I think it's current. If suddenly walking along the street, your beloved character is beheaded by another character just for the lols, you would feel extremely aggrieved. If, as Dan said, they die being the hero, and actually a part of their character had always been that they wanted to go out because they were a massive alcoholic and they missed their wife who got murdered by some rampaging centaurs or something. That's different. We all want to go out the way you want to go out, not just Josh just got stabbed. So sorry, boss. What were you saying?
Carbon campaign is a very beer and pretzels campaign, isn't it? So it's not like we're kind of in the deep dark depths of our own souls when this stuff happens. So there's maybe not as much of a connection there, which helps.
I also think like if you foreshadow it as well, that's the thing is if it's out of nowhere, that's when I think people will be like, what the fuck, but. I think if you're foreshadowing and you're saying, hey, if you do this, maybe it's going to be bad. Are you going to and then you have that constantly. It helps a little bit trying to get people on board with it.
Yeah, and also that just reminded me of an interesting point, of course, that I'm sure a lot of players, when they're new to games, go through at some point when you suddenly realise that there are consequences to your actions. You're not playing a computer game where if you run to the edge of the cliff, you're just going to sort of run on the spot. You can't run off the edge. No, you plunge to your death.
Yeah.
And I have had quite a few players in the past, not necessarily with us, but come afoul of that and been like, oh, what, you mean I just fall down the well? So... well, yes. You tried to climb down the well.
James's character literally fell to his death and died in our superhero campaign.
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah.
I wasn't there for that.
One of the players had a chance to potentially do something about it. It was like, oh, look, there, as I plunged to my death, and as a result, I plunged to my death. I was quite upset about that. It's a strange feeling when you are invested in a character because you obviously, if you're playing for a couple of years, you just have to take a moment. Another player I remember pacing up and down outside the pub and staring into the window at us after the character died. Bless.
My character died, and then I came back. So in the previous campaign, I played a priest of Serenray. And I think I just got like one-shotted or something by like a bolt that just went through my chest. And it was just so quick. It wasn't like, dramatic or anything. Well, it was dramatic, but it wasn't like I did like something heroic or anything before. I think it was just mid-fight and they just blasted me and I died. Yes. And then I think everyone spoke to me like in the waiting room of Serenray and they were like, do you want to come back? And I was like, yes, please.
Well, there is, there is a sort of the resurrect mechanic. I was just going to mention, what is this game called, Ross, and the author? We'll give a shout out because we have talked about the system quite a lot, and I think it would be fair to give a shout out.
Oh, it's going to test me now. I've got it here. For the author.
I'll tell you what, while you're looking at that up, Matt's just joined in. We're straight away with leggings check. With 7 minutes to go of the stream, let's see them leggings.
We've got some very fine green and neon kind of leggings today.
What's quite interesting as well that because your leggings are green, when you lifted up your shirt, you disappeared, but your leggings remained.
Literally, that's the natural progression, isn't it? I'm just leggings. I found out that the company that makes my leggings also make masks now, so there is now a good reason for this pandemic in my eyes. Like I'm settled in now for the next.
He can't afford games, but he can afford shiny masks.
It's true. And
how on earth is that a surprise to you?
I mean, you can rest assured that Dan's favourite legging shop is doing very well, thank you. They've never had it so good, but Dan can't afford 50 quid for a new game. So we've got that. And now, yes, Ross, what is the name of this game?
So it was a Kickstarter, I think last year, or it's called Carbon 2185. It uses the 5e rules. It's by Robert Mariner Dodds and Dragon Turtle Games Limited. I mean, we should get in contact with them really, because I keep plugging all their stuff all the time for free. But yeah, it's a really cool concept. It's basically it has its own classes, like, so they've obviously taken out like Ranger and stuff. They called them something different, and it's all very. There's a lot of stuff in there in terms of the world building. They've also released another book which outlines 3 more cities: London, I think Tokyo, and Manhattan.
New York, I think Manhattan, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah. And they've all fleshed out those cities as well, with their own like dialects and their own like their own corporations in those and stuff. And
stop us.
Yeah.
New York, is it? Oh, you're going to be a Cockney. That's
yeah. Yeah. And they're still growing, and I think they're releasing another book which is going to introduce like space travel and stuff like that, and which would be really cool. And it's a really I really like it, and I like learning about it. And my game is not necessarily so dark and gritty and everything's like miserable, because I introduce my silly comedy stuff into it. Like
no one is surprised.
Yeah. So because that's me. That's just me. So I don't like it all to be like everything's depressing and everything's shit, because I like to throw some comedy stuff in there. If that's just like a hobo that's called Hobo Satan or whatever, or a car called Shagger. Don't ask me why it's called that.
Yes, yeah. In law now, even basic objects around your home will constantly remind you of what they are by repeating that they're a bucket, 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 because that's going to help. That'll definitely help. And who's the publisher?
So it's Dragon Turtle Games.
It is Dragon Turtle Games. Thank you, Matt, for putting a link there in the chat so you can go and support them. And also, it's worth noting that they've managed to make it. It is not a reboot of a very popular the Shadowrun campaign, which is the other sort of big cyberpunk, the heavyweight, really. It is very much more like Blade Runner. It's very much set in. You've got some interesting classes in there, but it's very good. It's very, very good. Good night, Candice. It's become a regular thing now. It's like a town crier about putting the baby to bed. So that's yes. But she loves the silliness in your games, Ross, and I think that's important. It's something we've talked about quite a lot with both of you, because you're both GMs of some talent. If I do say so myself, is that you reflect your own personality in your games and chop and change what you like. Make it great.
I was gonna just quickly say, go on.
No, you've finished it, Laura.
I was just gonna say, it is weird, because I was just going back to talking about death as a player.
Yes, that's why you're tuning to Dangerous Wednesdays, folks.
Death is the I got really it was really weird. Well, so I've had a few deaths, not my character. In the first game that we played with Dan, I was a ranger and I lost my bear called Bald Lou, and it got crushed in a trap, and I felt I was like,
trap.
Yeah,
I can
that you sent him into. That's not.
And also, the reason it was Bald Lou is because you burnt him horribly whilst failing miserably to train him. At the beginning.
I was not a protector of animals as my ranger called
Raymir.
Anyway, so that was quite that hit me a little bit, because Bald Lou was with me for a longer period than my badger that I threw down a sewer. Anyway,
to check how deep the sewage was, Ross ordered his faithful badger into the sewage. Turns out it was pretty deep. That badger did not come back.
Yeah. And then obviously my character in the next campaign we did died, and that was a bit weird, because I was umming and ahhing whether or not, in story wise, if it's better if I die and then play another character, rather than think what I wanted. I was thinking what's best for the story and what would my character do, and would he want to come back. And that's a weird thing as well, because then you do worry that death is never final, like, because you can always have that option, just like we did in the Danger Club.
Yeah,
with
well, we're going to say that none of the things being discussed tonight are about the Danger Club. These are all
Yeah.
private games, so don't worry about like I never saw
Exactly.
the thing with the Ranger and the Badger.
yeah, these are all games we
These are
have.
old campaigns. We're no spoilers here. There's a spoilers-free zone on Dangerous Wednesdays. But
And
I
can
don't
see-
think it's not a current spoiler to say that we have dealt with player death at some point during the long history of the Danger Club and all of its various episodes.
I mean,
and we
for
had
those who
similar
haven't listened to all the Danger Club episodes, perhaps that is. So let's just keep that on the list. But we're not discussing the Danger Club on Dangerous Wednesdays. I know it's quite.
Yeah. So I think that when I died in that campaign that we did, the social game, don't worry, that we
This is
did.
all social games.
I think I left. I think I left the pub, didn't I?
You
'Cause
did. You
I
were
s-
very upset. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I said to you guys, I wasn't really like, oh, I'm so sad. I just said it would be weird for me to stay because I don't want to know what's happened. Do you know what I mean? It's weird. I think that's purely the method in me that I'm like, no, I must not know what's happening because I need to be method, and I need to, if I'm to be dead, I must be dead. I must never come back to Mondays until my character comes back.
I mean, I really respected you wholeheartedly for that. Just be like, Ross, you come back in the pub, mate. Your pint's getting warm. No, I am now death. I am beyond the veil. I must live it. Why are you taking your clothes off, Ross? Because the death is cold. You don't need clothes in the underlife.
Yeah, so
I would have
I think-
expected that. Like, what's Ross doing? So,
I don't know why I did. I don't think I would do that now. I think that was the second character I played, and I was like really into that campaign, and I was like, no, I can't. I must. Yeah,
you do as well. Like with early characters or first characters, I think there's always a bit more of an emotional attachment to that kind of stuff.
yeah.
So we've got people dashing. This is actually, we are 1 minute past 7. Sorry,
Wow.
Dan, you were going to say something earlier. Was it
I was,
as
yeah,
a final thing?
I have a question for Ross, actually, just about GMing that situation, which is
Yes.
the sort of PvP situation, was interesting. Do you think it would have been easier or harder if my character had wanted to fight back? Like if my character had, because the whole set, my character was basically like a child or like a dog in that, like he just, it was literally Old Yeller. He had no concept whatsoever that there was anything wrong, so he just gets shot in the head and he's gone. So there's no there's no conflict there. There's no problem. But like, if it was a different character where it's like, no, I'm fighting this. I want to live, and suddenly you've got a split in the party, or you've got to deal with that situation. Do you think that would have been easier? Is that you could just get everyone to roll initiative and let the players sort it out, or is that harder because of the repercussions or how players
It's a
feel?
good question.
That's a good question. Yeah. I think it probably. I mean, it would have made the game much longer if you'd had rolled for the attacks and everything. I don't know. That'd be quite interesting, actually. I think I would have maybe preferred it to see what you would have done. I mean, there was 12 Yakuza in the room plus you guys, so it would have been a very long fight. I mean, that would be an interesting thing to do with the PvP.
I mean, my
think
character definitely didn't walk out. Definitely
Yeah.
not. Didn't hide downstairs at all.
Yeah, there was there were two of the actual PCs were actually missing from the fight, from that little scenario. But I think I preferred it the way it was because I think it means there's more brevity and more character building for Pandora, which is Candice's character. I think there's more to work with there now with her, and the fact that she disobeyed the Yakuza for the first time when she was asked to do it. So I think despite her thinking that that death didn't mean anything, I think it did. Whether it's good or bad, we'll see. But I think I preferred the way it happened.
Well, yeah, and I can say that Candice did make the comment earlier on the chat that it will probably affect her character.
Yeah.
Which I think, again, and like we said, it's great role playing. It's stuff that you can use and stuff you can, sort of enhance your character and your story and things like that. No. So Matt's just better. Is this going to be another show? No, don't worry. All we've discussed this evening has been not DCP. This has been private games and personal recollections from years and years gone by. Sometimes going back to when Dan was bullied when he was 12, where it all began.
That's
Now
when
it's
his
come
hatred
full circle. Candice.
Now I'm wearing the leggings. So Candice has actually gone, but it was merely just to discuss sort of player death and when that's been caused by someone else, but also just generally talking about that rather thorny issue that raises its head in games. But now
I feel like this is nice that we've sort of we've overrun talking about it, which clearly means it's quite a fun conversation. This would be a good one to carry on the Discord if people want to jump on there and give their. I'd love to read people's stories of how this sort of stuff has happened.
Absolutely, yeah, because I'm sure that everyone's got a story of either when they were DMing and they've lost a character, or rather they had an NPC, or there was some awkward thing like Rogvergurg's story, which was hilarious about the goblin that no one liked, because he was actually went out of his way to be really irritating. So, consequences. To perhaps one of your own players who's snuffed it at the hands of someone else, or and just died in a really odd, useless way. But that is going to draw at the end to Dangerous Wednesdays. Do jump on our Discord as ever. We love to see you chat. We love to join in as well and hear all of those stories. And thank you so much again for the Patreon support. And it will continue to run. Keep checking that space. It will be updated with stuff going on. Aqua Barbie Girl. Matt, the second time Matt said Aqua Barbie Girl at me today. He joined my Twitch stream and said exactly that as well. I'm going to go and listen to Aqua by Barbie Girl by Aqua. But I think any last comments, Dungeon Master?
Thank you for joining us. Audio this will be out later on tonight. Brand new episode of Danger Club on Monday. New episode of Danger Recall on the Patreon stream on Tuesday. There's a lot of content.
That's a lot of nuts. Which was a film reference. I don't know why I said that. It was that ridiculous kung fu movie that I watched ages ago. Anyway, and Ross, any last comments?
No, other than I will kill Dan's character again. Mark my words.
I've done it twice.
I've already written the new character. Ross has already rejected the backstory on the grounds that a stream of consciousness on Facebook Messenger isn't allowed, and I have to actually type it up. It's going to be good. I can't wait.
I think we're on for a winner. So certainly from it's good night from Dan.
Good night, everyone.
It's good night from Ross.
Good night or good morning, wherever you're from.
Exactly. And of course, it's good night from me, James Foxy Lockhart. Until next week's Dangerous Wednesdays, or you can find me on my Twitch tomorrow. But until then, stay dangerous.